The rain was coming down in torrents across downtown Nashville when Taylor Swift ducked into the small corner coffee shop she had never visited before. She was soaked despite her umbrella, her blonde hair plastered to her face, and her oversized sunglasses fogged up from the dramatic temperature change between the cold October air and the warm, cozy interior of Bruin Books, a tiny independent cafe that looked like it had been transplanted from a small college town. Taylor had been walking through the Music Row area, trying to clear her head after a particularly frustrating recording session when the storm had caught her off guard. She had been so lost in thought about lyrical changes and melody adjustments that she hadn't noticed the dark clouds gathering overhead until the first heavy drops started falling. The nearest shelter had been this unassuming little cafe with its hand-painted sign and mismatched furniture visible through rain-streaked windows. As she stepped inside, shaking drops from her coat and removing her fogged glasses, Taylor was struck by how different this place was from the sleek, modern coffee chains she usually frequented. The walls were lined with bookshelves filled with well-worn novels and poetry collections. Local art hung in mismatched frames, and the whole place smelled like freshly ground coffee beans, cinnamon, and old books. It was the kind of place that felt like a secret hideaway, somewhere you could disappear for hours with a good book and nobody would bother you. Behind the counter stood 22-year-old Alex Martinez, aspiring singer-songwriter who had moved to Nashville 18 months earlier with dreams of making it in the music industry. He was working at Bruin Books to pay rent on a tiny studio apartment while playing open mic nights and trying to get his original songs heard by anyone who would listen. Alex was one of those rare young people in Nashville who was so focused on his own musical journey that he didn't spend much time following celebrity culture or keeping up with the latest pop music trends. "Welcome to Bruin Books," Alex said warmly, looking up from the espresso machine he was cleaning. "Crazy weather out there, huh? You look like you got caught in it." Taylor, still adjusting to the warmth and pulling her wet hair back into a ponytail, glanced up at the friendly barista who was treating her like any other customer seeking shelter from the storm. It was such a refreshing change from her usual interactions that she felt herself relaxing immediately. "Yeah, it came out of nowhere," Taylor replied, her voice slightly muffled as she continued trying to dry off with napkins from the counter. "I was just walking through the neighborhood and suddenly it was like someone turned on a fire hose in the sky." Alex laughed, already reaching for a towel that he kept behind the counter for exactly these situations. "Here, this might help more than those little napkins." Nashville weather is crazy, unpredictable, especially this time of year. One minute it's sunny and 70, next minute you're running for cover. "Thanks," Taylor said, accepting the towel gratefully. "You must see a lot of people stumble in here looking like drowned rats." "All the time," Alex confirmed, grinning. "But hey, that's what coffee shops are for, right? Shelter from the storm, literal and metaphorical. Plus, I figure anyone who needs to get out of weather like this deserves a really good cup of coffee to warm them up." As Taylor dried her hair and tried to make herself look more presentable, she was struck by how genuinely kind this stranger was being. There was no recognition in his eyes, no sudden change in demeanor, no phone appearing to secretly take photos. He was just a nice person being helpful to another person who had gotten caught in the rain. "So what can I get you?" Alex asked, gesturing to the handwritten menu board behind him that featured creative coffee drinks with literary names. "Our most popular is the Gatsby Green Light. It's a matcha latte with vanilla and a touch of mint. But if you're looking for something to really warm you up, I'd recommend the Wuthering Depths. It's basically a hot chocolate and coffee hybrid with cinnamon and cayenne pepper." Taylor studied the menu with genuine interest, charmed by the literary theme and the obvious creativity that had gone into naming each drink. She could tell that this wasn't just a job for Alex. He cared about what he was doing and took pride in the craft of making good coffee. "Those sound amazing," Taylor said, still scanning the options. "But I think I'm more in the mood for something simple and classic. Could I get a large cappuccino with an extra shot? And maybe something sweet to go with it? Absolutely, Alex said, already reaching for the espresso beans. We've got some incredible locally made pastries, or I could recommend our house-made chocolate chip cookies. They're still warm from this morning's batch. The cookies sound perfect, Taylor replied, settling onto one of the mismatched stools at the counter so she could watch Alex work. She was fascinated by his obvious expertise and passion for coffee making, the way he carefully measured and tamped the espresso, the precision with which he steamed the milk to exactly the right temperature and texture. "So are you new to Nashville?" Alex asked as he worked, making conversation in the natural way that good baristas do. "I haven't seen you in here before, and I'm pretty good at remembering faces." "I've been here for a while, but I'm usually in different parts of town," Taylor said carefully, not wanting to lie but also not ready to reveal who she was. "I was just walking around Music Row today and got caught in the rain." "Music Row, huh?" Alex's eyes lit up with interest. "Are you in the industry? Musician? Songwriter? Producer?" "I write songs," Taylor said, which was perfectly true even if it was dramatically understating her situation. "What about you? Do you just work here? Or are you pursuing music too?" "Guilty as charged," Alex laughed, expertly creating foam art in Taylor's cappuccino. "I'm the classic Nashville cliché. Young guy from small town moves to Music City to chase his dreams, works at a coffee shop to pay the bills while playing open mics, and hoping someone important will hear his songs." "That's not cliché," Taylor said firmly. "That's brave. Following your dreams is always brave, especially when it means leaving everything familiar behind and starting over somewhere new." Alex paused in his milk steaming to look at her with surprise. "Thanks, I needed to hear that today actually. Had a pretty brutal rejection yesterday from a publishing company, and I was starting to wonder if I'm just kidding myself." "What kind of music do you write?" Taylor asked, accepting her beautifully crafted cappuccino and warming her hands on the ceramic mug. "Folk rock, mostly. Story songs about real people and real experiences. I know it's not the most commercial sound, but it's what comes naturally to me," Alex said, handing her the plate of cookies. "What about you? What kind of songs do you write?" Taylor took a sip of her cappuccino, which was honestly one of the best she'd ever had, and considered how to answer. "All kinds, really. I like songs that tell stories, that help people feel less alone in their experiences. I think the best music happens when someone shares something true about their life, and other people recognize their own experiences in it." "Exactly," Alex said enthusiastically. "That's what I love about country and folk music. It's about real people going through real things. Not that there's anything wrong with other genres, but there's something special about songs that make you feel understood, you know?" As they talked, Taylor found herself genuinely enjoying the conversation. Alex was passionate about music in a way that reminded her of her own early days in Nashville, when everything was about the songs rather than the business, when the goal was connection rather than commercial success. His enthusiasm was infectious, and his insights about songwriting were surprisingly sophisticated. "Can I ask you something?" Alex said after they had been talking for about 20 minutes. "And feel free to tell me this is weird, but your voice sounds really familiar. Have we met before? Or maybe you've played somewhere I've been?" Taylor felt her heart rate increase slightly. This was the moment she had been dreading and anticipating, when her identity would be revealed and the natural, comfortable dynamic they had established would inevitably change. "I don't think we've met before," Taylor said carefully, "but maybe you've heard some of my music somewhere." "Maybe," Alex mused, clearly trying to place her voice. "It's driving me crazy because I feel like I should know it. You have a really distinctive sound. There's something about your tone and phrasing that's just—" He trailed off, still trying to solve the puzzle, and Taylor made a decision that surprised even her. Instead of simply telling him who she was, she decided to let him figure it out in a more creative way. "What if I placed my order again?" Taylor suggested with a mischievous smile. "But this time, instead of just talking, what if I sang it to you?" Alex looked confused but intrigued. Sang your coffee order? That's actually kind of brilliant. I've never had anyone do that before. Well, you said you're a musician, Taylor said, standing up from her stool and clearing her throat theatrically. Maybe you'll recognize the style. What happened next would become the stuff of Nashville legend. Taylor Swift, standing in a tiny, independent coffee shop with her hair still damp from rain and wearing the most casual clothes in her wardrobe, began to sing her coffee order with the full power and distinctive style that had made her one of the most recognizable voices in contemporary music. I'd like a large cappuccino with an extra shot of love, she sang, her voice immediately filling the small space with rich, unmistakable tones. Steam the milk to perfection, make it something I'll be dreaming of, and if you've got some cookies that are warm and sweet, that would make my rainy day complete. She continued, turning her simple coffee order into an impromptu song that showcased her range, her storytelling ability, and the vocal qualities that millions of fans around the world would recognize instantly. I walked into your coffee shop to get out of the pouring rain, never knowing that I'd find a friend who'd help wash away my pain. Now I'm standing here beside you, hoping that you'll understand sometimes the best discoveries happen when you least have them planned. As Taylor sang, Alex's expression changed from confusion to dawning recognition to complete and utter shock. His mouth fell open, his eyes widened, and he actually took a step backward as the reality of who was standing in his coffee shop hit him like a freight train. "Oh my God," Alex whispered, his voice barely audible over Taylor's continued singing. "Oh my God, you're Taylor Swift." Taylor finished her improvised song with a flourish, ending on a high note that left no doubt about her identity, then grinned at Alex's stunned expression. "Guilty as charged," she said, echoing his earlier phrase about being a musician. "Though I have to say, that might be the first time I've ever sung a coffee order." Alex stood frozen behind the counter for several long seconds, clearly trying to process the surreal nature of what had just happened. Taylor Swift, global superstar, Grammy winner, one of the most famous people in the world, had been sitting in his tiny coffee shop for the better part of half an hour, talking to him about songwriting and life in Nashville like a regular person. I can't believe I didn't recognize you," Alex finally managed to say. "I mean, I should have known. Your voice it's everywhere. I hear your songs on the radio every day." "Hey, don't feel bad about it," Taylor said gently, sitting back down on her stool. "Honestly, it was refreshing to have a normal conversation about music without all the usual complications that come with people knowing who I am." "But I was giving you advice about following your dreams," Alex said, his face reddening with embarrassment. "I was telling Taylor Swift about how hard it is to make it in the music industry." Taylor laughed, not at Alex but with genuine amusement at the situation. "And it was good advice. Just because I've had success doesn't mean I don't still deal with rejection, criticism, and self-doubt. The stuff you told me about staying true to your artistic vision and not giving up after setbacks, that's advice I need to hear too." "This is insane," Alex said, running his hands through his hair. "Taylor Swift is sitting in my coffee shop. Taylor Swift just sang her coffee order to me. This doesn't feel real." "It's real," Taylor assured him. "And you know what else is real? This is genuinely the best cappuccino I've had in months. You were incredibly kind to a stranger who was soaked from the rain, and you have really thoughtful things to say about music and songwriting." Alex stared at her for another moment, then suddenly burst out laughing. "My manager is never going to believe this. Hell, I'm not sure I believe this. But can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why did you decide to sing your order? I mean, you could have just told me who you are." Taylor considered the question seriously. "Because you said my voice sounded familiar, and I could tell it was bothering you that you couldn't place it. But also because, when was the last time you heard someone sing just for the joy of it? Not for an album, not for a concert, not for social media, or any commercial purpose. Just because singing felt like the right response to a moment." "That's beautiful," Alex said softly. "And now I'm even more embarrassed that I was complaining to you about the music industry." "Don't be embarrassed." Taylor said firmly. Everything you said was valid. This industry is brutal, especially for new artists. The rejection you got yesterday? That hurts just as much, whether you're starting out or whether you've been doing this for 15 years. The difference is that I've learned to expect it and not take it personally, but that doesn't make it fun. They talked for another hour, with Alex gradually relaxing into the conversation as he realized that Taylor genuinely wanted to hear about his music and his experiences trying to make it in Nashville. She asked thoughtful questions about his songwriting process, his influences, and his goals as an artist. "Can I hear one of your songs?" Taylor asked eventually. "I mean, if you're comfortable performing. No pressure if you're not." Alex looked around the empty coffee shop. The rain had kept customers away, leaving them with complete privacy, and made a decision that would change his life. "You know what? Yes, but only if you promise to give me honest feedback, not just be polite because you're Taylor Swift." "Deal," Taylor said immediately. "I promise to tell you exactly what I think." Alex disappeared into the back room and returned with an acoustic guitar that had clearly seen better days but was well-loved and perfectly maintained. He spent a moment tuning it, then launched into an original song called Small Town Dreamer that was exactly the kind of authentic, story-driven music he had described earlier. The song was about leaving home to chase dreams in a big city, about the loneliness and uncertainty of starting over, but also about the hope and determination that keeps you going when everything feels impossible. Alex's voice was strong and distinctive, his guitar work was sophisticated, and his lyrics were honest and relatable without being cliched. When he finished, Taylor was quiet for several seconds, not because she didn't have anything to say, but because she was genuinely moved by what she had heard. "Alex," she said finally, "that song is incredible. Your voice, your lyrics, your melody, everything about it is professional level. Whoever rejected you yesterday made a huge mistake." "Really?" Alex asked, his voice full of hope and disbelief. "You're not just being nice?" "I'm never just nice about music," Taylor said with a laugh. "Ask anyone who's worked with me. I have very strong opinions and I'm not afraid to share them. That song has everything it needs to connect with people. It's honest, it's well-crafted, and it comes from a place of genuine experience." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "Alex, I want to ask you something, and I want you to think about it seriously before you answer. How would you feel about playing that song for some people I know in the industry? Not as charity or because you met me randomly in a coffee shop, but because you're genuinely talented, and your music deserves to be heard." Alex stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious? You would do that?" "I would do that because your music is good," Taylor emphasized. "Not because I feel sorry for you or because you made me a great cappuccino, but because talent recognizes talent, and you have something worth sharing." What followed was a conversation about the music industry that was unlike anything Alex had ever experienced. Taylor shared insights about songwriting, recording, and navigating the business side of music that would have cost thousands of dollars to learn from a consultant. But more than that, she offered him something invaluable: genuine encouragement from someone who understood both the challenges and the possibilities of a musical career. "There's something I want you to remember," Taylor said as their conversation began to wind down. "The rejection you got yesterday, the doubt you were feeling when I walked in here, those are temporary. But your talent, your passion, your unique perspective on the world, those are permanent. Don't let temporary setbacks convince you to give up something permanent." "I don't know how to thank you," Alex said, shaking his head. "Not just for offering to help with my music, but for treating me like my dreams matter." "Your dreams do matter," Taylor replied. "And Alex, the next time someone walks into your coffee shop looking like they need shelter from a storm, literal or metaphorical, remember what it felt like when someone took your dreams seriously. Pass that kindness forward." As Taylor prepared to leave, the rain had stopped and she needed to get back to her recording session. She made good on her promise. She connected Alex with her manager, who listened to his demo and agreed that he had real potential. Within 6 months, Alex had signed a publishing deal and was working on his first professional recording. But perhaps more importantly, Alex had learned something that would shape the rest of his career. Authentic human connections are more valuable than networking events, And sometimes the most important conversations happen in the most unexpected places. The story of Taylor Swift singing her coffee order in a tiny Nashville cafe became legendary in music circles, not because of its celebrity factor, but because it demonstrated the kind of genuine mentorship and support that keeps the music community strong. Years later, when Alex had established himself as a successful songwriter and performer, he would often tell the story of the rainy day when Taylor Swift walked into his coffee shop. But he always emphasized the same point. She didn't help him because she was famous and generous. She helped him because she recognized something authentic in his music and chose to nurture it. That day taught me that the music industry isn't just about talent or luck, Alex would say. It's about recognizing the humanity in each other and choosing to lift each other up instead of seeing everyone as competition. And every time he performed Small Town Dreamer, which became his signature song and first major hit, Alex would think about the afternoon when a stranger sought shelter from the rain and ended up providing shelter for his dreams instead. The coffee shop itself became something of a pilgrimage site for aspiring musicians, many of whom hoped to recreate Alex's experience. But Alex, who eventually bought the shop from its original owners, made sure that everyone who walked through the doors received the same kindness and attention that Taylor had shown him. Not because they might be famous, but because every person pursuing their dreams deserves to be taken seriously. For Taylor Swift, the afternoon at Bruin Books became a reminder of why she had fallen in love with music in the first place, and why supporting other artists was one of the most important uses of her platform and influence. And somewhere in Nashville, in a small coffee shop filled with books and dreams, the echo of that improvised coffee order song still lingered. A reminder that magic can happen anywhere, anytime someone is brave enough to sing their truth to a stranger who's willing to listen. Sometimes the most meaningful encounters happen when we're simply being ourselves, without pretense or performance. Taylor Swift's decision to reveal her identity through song rather than announcement created a moment of pure artistry that transcended celebrity and touched something deeper, the universal human desire to be recognized for who we truly are. Alex's failure to immediately recognize one of the world's most famous voices allowed for the kind of authentic conversation that's rare in any industry, but especially in entertainment. Their exchange proved that genuine talent and kindness create connections that go far beyond fame or fortune. When we take the time to really listen to each other, whether someone is ordering coffee or sharing their dreams, we create opportunities for the kind of magic that changes lives and reminds us why human connection is the most powerful force in any creative endeavor.